Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. Oh my gosh, we're on Heaven Official's Blessing, or as I have just watched a Tianguan Sufu, I think that's right, for episode 3. Oh my gosh. So I watched episodes 1 and 2 together last week of the series. It was great. What a great start. I have lots of notes. I have lots of notes from Patreon. As I'm recording this, episode 1 has not aired. Episode 1 and 2 has not aired on YouTube yet. But episode 1 and 2 has aired on Patreon. I have a lot of comments. First of all, thank you all so much for not spoiling me with the comments. I'm okay with knowing world building things, but I don't want to know anything related to the characters, anything related to the plot. Nothing. I wanted a secret. And if the show doesn't tell me, then we're going to find out in the book. So if you're like, because I did have questions from the last episode, like how old is Xie Lian? How old is he? I don't want to know yet. I'll find out. How is he related to the boy with the bandages? Is that tied back to this ghostly man, Mr. Smirk? I don't want to know how. I don't want to know clues. I want to be as blind as I can be. That was the one good thing about Modao Zushi, is that I went into Modao Zushi knowing virtually nothing, and all I knew were like character names, how to pronounce them, how Chinese like familiarities, how courtesy names worked. The world building stuff, I'm fine with knowing that. That part's okay, but if it's related to the plot or the characters that I'm going to find out, I don't want to know yet. I like to think that I'm a little perceptive, I can figure it out, or I like to try, even if I can't figure it out. I like the trying and the surprise of it, but I do have a lot of comments that I want to get to, so this may be a long introduction, but Woosh and Sweebian sent me a link to a video, and I did not watch very much of it. She told me that there were going to be characters on there that I wouldn't know, and kind of like do this on the screen, and I only watched like the first minute or two, and there were a few names I didn't quite remember from the last episode, but I was like doing this the whole time and just listening and writing down, and then once I heard a few names that I really didn't know, then I stopped the video and was like, okay, well, that's clearly getting into characters we're going to meet later. But my big thing is I'm a Western viewer, I speak English, and I'm an English teacher, so my brain is hardwired for standard American English, so the phonetics of Chinese is something that has always been something that I struggle with. And I thought the video was really helpful, so thank you, Woosh and Sweebian. Especially getting like when I see the XI, it does remind me of, I had a friend whose name was Susha, and her name was XUX, and it was Susha, but in Chinese it's the shish name so Xie Lian. So Xie Lian, I'm like, okay, Xie Lian. We have Muqing, or Xuanjin, maybe, and then Fengxin, and then Nanfeng, and Fuyao. Yao is easy. Fuyao is easy. So our two deputies are Nanfeng and Fuyao. So Yao and Feng are our two deputies, and then we have the two deities that were at the beginning that got mad at Xie Lian were Muqing, and Fengxin. Maybe I got that right. I've got like a little cheat sheet here started, so I'm going to keep, Anime Annie recommended that I do a cheat sheet. I'm like, that's a good idea. Since I don't have the character sheets I had before, I'm going to do a cheat sheet. And so I just asked, please bear with me because my pronunciation is horrible, but I'm going to do my best. So, I do have some comments. Sarah Linda, Anime Annie, and several people talked about how the communication array. So when we see them all gathered in the golden temple there at the beginning, and they're all like talking to each other, and it looks like a Zoom meeting. It kind of is. They were talking about how in the novel communication arrays, it's basically just like telepathy, just they're telepathically talking to one another. But in the episode, they gave it a visual representation of it being like the boardroom and the Zoom call, but that's not really how it works in the novel. I'm like, okay, that part's really cool. Ivan as Ida noted that Nangfeng and Fuyao, they're like bickering cousins, and I do like that. I love the dynamic between Feng and Yao and Xie Lian. I like the dynamic that they have. It's kind of like Feng and Yao don't really want to work with Xie Lian, but they have no choice. And so I'm like, by the end of this, you guys are going to be best friends. I just know it. By the end of this, they're going to be besties, and I can't wait. Goldman, thank you, talking about that there are 3 realms. So what I like about this story is it is already very distinctly different than Modao Zushi, that there are 3 realms in the story. There is the heavenly realm, which is once you ascend into godhood, you go there. It's like a big old like palace in the sky. There's the mortal realm, And then there's the ghostly realm. And I'm like, oh, the ghostly realm, you say? Interesting. So it's like heaven and hell sort of thing. Nice. All right. I like it. And the boundaries between them are permeable. And so you can go in between boundaries. I'm like, that's interesting. That's very interesting. All right. And then Tianguan Shufu is based on a Taoist or folkloric religious saying that talks about, it means good luck. I'm like, okay, like heaven officials' blessing, like you get their blessing. Makes sense. Goldsman also sent a really cool picture of an actual Taoist artwork that is in the Boston Art Museum, and I thought that was really cool, showing like what an actual heaven official would look like. That was really neat. But there's like a bureaucracy amongst all the deities in heaven. Go figure. So they're all led by the heavenly emperor, and they mentioned the emperor in the first episode. He wasn't present at the Zoom call, had bigger things to do, but that's interesting. Kixke pointed out about the communication array as well, that where they're gathered in the novel, it's all in their head. That apparently the ED at the end of this was actually the OP. I'm going to be excited when I actually watch episode 3 here to see everything lined out, but apparently there are different OPs and EDs throughout, and there's an OVA at the end. Like, I guess episode 13 is an OVA. Yay, I'm excited by that. So I'm excited to watch that on here. But they explained that. And then Anastasia had a lot of information, so thank y'all. Y'all on Patreon came out in droves to give me some info. But Anastasia talked about how gods apparently ascend from humans, which makes sense. And it's either through different means, either cultivation, kind of like in Modao Zushi, or through glorious deeds, through devotion, or through masterful things, whatever that implies. And that's interesting. I hadn't noticed this until Anastasia really pointed it out, but Modao Zushi doesn't really have a lot of religious or gods or deities or immortal things. Not really. The cultivators kind of can live for a long time, but they're not immortal, and there's not really a lot of religious. The only thing really religious that gets talked about Modao Zushi is when they get to Guanyin Temple. That's pretty much it. That the story doesn't deal with a lot of that culturally. So it's cool that this series is taking like some similar like cultivation things and things from Chinese folklore and things like that and storytelling and tropes, but it's applying it in a much different way. I like that this story is different from Modao Zushi. That was the one thing I was afraid of going into this. I'm like, is this going to be like Modao Zushi 2.0 or 1.0, since I guess this came first? But I'm glad it's very, very different already. I'm very glad about that. But yeah, and then I guess the worshippers gives them power. It's such a weird thing. The worshippers give them power, and they get it through godly merits or credits or prayers or offerings. So I'm like, okay, interesting. That makes me think, I'm wondering if the little boy, because I rewatched the episode right before starting this video. I rewatched episode 2. And so I'm wondering if they had that montage at the end and the little boy running towards the temple. I wonder if he made a shrine for Xie Lian to try to keep him, to help give him power. I wonder if that's something that happened. I don't want spoilers, but that's just where my head's at right now. I'm like, oh, maybe he made the shrine to keep on trying to give him power and keep him ascending. I don't know. It would be really cute if he did. But yeah, so apparently gods get titles after ascension, so it's like a courtesy name, kind of. So we have Min Qing, who is now General Zhang I guess. And then Ling Wen, that is apparently a god name, so we don't know her mortal name yet. And then Xie Lian, and his god name is Jianli. Okay, because that was the kingdom that he was a prince of. Right. And then apparently martial gods, and then of course we had the other one that wasn't mentioned. I mentioned was Feng. He was the other one. And so then martial gods apparently are not all gods of war, but they do mainly slay monsters. So it's kind of like the cultivation aspect of it. And then Ling Wen is more of like a literary god, so like a humanitarian person who does humanitarian acts. Makes sense. She had all the scrolls. Seems legit. And then I liked how I like how you described ghosts. They're dead but lively things. I'm like, oh yeah, so ghosts are dead but lively things. That's fun. And then demons are very strong ghosts. So we had like the fierce ghosts, and then there were the wraths, and then I guess the demons were the strongest. Interesting. And we've established that the bridegroom is a wrath, so like the second strongest ghost. Interesting. Okay, Moth Green Applesauce noted that there are apparently 8 volumes of the story. Oh my. I have like 4 volumes pre-ordered right now. I have up to volume 4 pre-ordered, so Oh, we're going to talk on Patreon after, because season 1 only covers the first volume of this story. So I'll talk with Patreon as we get closer through this. I don't know if I will be able to go through, because I want to definitely do the novel and the manhwa. And so we'll just, hopefully by the time I get done with this first season, I'll have the second and third volumes of Heaven Official's Blessing. So that will be good. And we'll just we'll play it by ear. With Modao Zushi, I was really fortunate and lucky because I already had all the material at my disposal. And so I could read the novel and react to it and talk about the manhwa up until a point and do all the different adaptations. So I was really spoiled with Modao Zushi. With this series and Scum Villain, it's going to be a little bit different, or there may be some delay on me finishing it. We'll talk more when we get closer to it. We'll figure it out. But good to know. And then Anime Annie. Apparently 1 merit is equivalent to an incense stick. So yeah, 8.8 million of those, huh? That's going to take a while. But maybe not. I mean, if 8 million people lit 1 incense stick, that's a lot of merits. So you just got to find, he's got to make himself well known, right? But we've seen in the heavenly realm that people who know who he is are fearful of him. So old Xie Lian has a shady past that we don't know about yet. But that's going to be interesting to kind of go through. And so we have the 2 gods, Nanyang and Feng, and who are now Zhangjin and Muqing. Oh, so Nanyang is now Feng, and Zhangjin was once Muqing. So they know who Zhanli was, that he was a prince, and that's why they're so offended that he doesn't remember them. Okay, he's like, you don't remember us? You were the crown prince. You should know everybody. Ugh, you know. And so that makes a sense why there was a big cause of fuss. And apparently Xie Lian can't use weapons, but he does have his bandages, which are something different. So, good to know. That only took me 12 minutes to get through. So, I really am liking this story so far. There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of setup and questions. I like having questions, and I don't obviously want spoilers. I want to figure out the answers as we go, but it's going to be exciting to theorize and to see what theories I develop and what's right and what's wrong. So, very curious, but okay. Also, I noticed in the last, I didn't notice this in the last discussion, but at the end of episode 2, it's basically a wedding. Xie Lian just got married, whether he knows it or not, because they're all in red. There's the umbrella, there's the robes, the bridal robes, the bridegroom. They basically got married. Take that, censorship. But also, that entire forest was just covered in blood. They were just walking through blood. The trees were dripping blood. It was very creepy, but beautiful. So I'm like, okay, cool. Awesome. One of you on Discord and in Patreon was like, welcome to the happiest and most tragic of MXTX's stories. And I was like, more tragic than Modao Zushi? What? Wait, what? So, okay. But thank you all so much on Patreon for the comments. Hopefully I will get to YouTube's comments for episodes 1 and 2 before I do episode 4. We'll see. But this series is going to go by really fast, isn't it? We're already on episode 3. We're already like a fourth of the way through. This season's going to go by really quickly. I'm forgetting how quickly Modao Zushi's Donghua went through. It went really quick too, so fun times. But there's a season 2 of the Donghua for this coming out, so at least there's that. But in any case, we are going to start Heaven Official's Blessing, episode 3, and we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Was that not the quickest episode of anything? That went by way too quickly. No. It's hitting me how quickly this series is gonna go. It's gonna fly by. We're already through episode 3. It's gonna fly. We're a fourth of the way through the series. I'm getting sucked in already, and it's gonna be over. I was spoiled by Modao Zushi. I've been spoiled by that series because I instantly was able to go through and watch 2 seasons, and then I only had to wait a couple months, and season 3 came out, and I was like, well, this is fine. It's not gonna be the same way with old Heaven Official's Blessing, from what it seems like. It's not gonna be the same thing. I'm gonna get tortured a little bit more on this one, I can already tell. But, oh, interesting. So one thing I notice about this is that Xie Lian, he's by himself for a lot of the detective work in this episode, which is really sad because the one thing about Modao Zushi is that Wuxian and Wanji were doing detective work together, which was really nice, right? It was great. They were doing a lot of work together. They could bounce ideas off each other and talk to each other. In this, in the case of this, Yao and Feng, they kind of they remind me a lot of the juniors of like Sishui and Ling in Modao Zushi. So they remind me a lot of the junior disciples. Those two, even though they're deputy gods and probably have a little more authority than Xie Lian right now. But Feng and Yao, they remind me of like the juniors. And so even though they're helping Xie Lian with his detective work, they're really more just listening to his ideas and then offering some feedback. They're not like actively engaging in the detective work like Wanji and Wuxian were in Modao Zushi. So that's the one thing that's sad is he's by himself. And he wouldn't be by himself if not for this mysterious smirking man that can turn into butterflies. What? So he was going through this forest, the corpses. There were corpses hanging from the trees. Oh, awesome. And you can't really, now you can tell when you look at it now, it's not as noticeable at first, but you can kind of tell going back through this, had the umbrella protecting his lover or would-be lover from the corpses hanging above them. Wow. Look at that. Yeah, this guy with the smirk clearly loves Xie Lian, but Xie Lian doesn't know who he is. That's interesting. We've not established that Xie Lian has memory problems, so it's curious he doesn't know who this guy is at all. He's got the little dangles on his boots. Yeah. But what I really like is that he's trying to figure it out, and it's not really romantic at all, right? It's funny because at the end of the last episode, it was framed as this big romantic gesture, him like with the red string of fate on his finger and like helping him out of the sedan chair and then him like falling into him and like all this and all that and then walking romantically through the forest together. It's framed romantically, but then you cut to Xie Lian here and he has no clue who this guy is and he's on a guard. He's like trying to figure him out, like, who is this guy? What's going on? And he said his footsteps sound light. He must be a young man. So he seems young, okay, and he looks young too. Yet his pace is steady as if he has seen it all. So is he like immortal? Is he immortal? Is his age suspended in time? He seems wise beyond his years, but he looks so young. Could he be the ghost bridegroom? He seems like a ghost. Seems like a ghost. If he can turn into butterflies. Seems rather ghostly. And then, yeah, he takes the umbrella down. And then, yeah, him turning to face him. And he has this big ornate necklace around him, which is interesting. It looks very celestial. It's interesting that he's got this ornate jewelry on there. And he has like a little braid in his hair. It's cute. And he goes to lift up the veil to look at Xie Lian. And I love that as he's lifting it up, Xie Lian's eyes are like, I gotcha. Like, you know, it's in any other scenario, it would seem romantic and he'd be like, oh, you're lifting up my veil. But here he's like, no, I'm going to get you. I like that Xie Lian he's our cinnamon bun, our cinnamon roll. But he's our cinnamon roll, but he's also not afraid to be spunky. Like, I like that little outburst. And yeah, he jumps away and uses the bandages. And this guy just smiles. And as the bandages go to hit him, he just erupts into butterflies. And Xie Lian's like, wait, what? What just happened? Oh my gosh. So what? The atmosphere of this episode was insanely creepy. It was just a creepy episode. And they say here the woods were full of dead wolves and the mountains creepy. Like what? Okay, so the man in red, the smirking man, he didn't kill the wolves. He just scared them away. The bridegroom is what I'm assuming killed the wolves. Interesting. Because Xie Lian says, well, if he was the bridegroom, the wolves should be working for him. Not necessarily. Why were they terrified upon seeing him? So yeah, when he crushed the skull, there was like a shield around the forest, and we saw for a minute it like blipped out, and it became like green and purple and then fizzled away. So when he stepped on the skull, that was breaking the barrier, right? Okay, interesting. Yeah, it broke the barrier. Okay. All right, the guy stamped it out. Why did he come for the bride? Well, I think he was looking... I think as soon as he knew it was you, Xie Lian, he came looking for you. He didn't care about the other brides. No. And that's the thing. When they were describing the bridegroom in the last couple of episodes, saying that it was stealing brides, I was like, that doesn't sound like a bridegroom necessarily. It sounds like a jealous woman. So it makes sense that it's a bride, a jealous, vindictive bride that's killed all these women. Makes sense. But yeah, and then there's one of the remaining butterflies, okay? And the butterfly leads him to the temple. Oh, so it's almost like the smirking man is trying to help Xie Lian figure out the mystery. He's trying to help him uncover things. But there's something going on under the surface, right? There's something else going on because we get to this temple, okay? Something else is happening because we get to this temple, right? And it's a Mingguang temple. All right, so there's a Mingguang temple. I'm going to put Mingguang up here. There's a Mingguang temple, and they say that there's not any of them around anymore. Like, they don't even know about it. And even the villagers were like, oh, we don't have one of those. But it's clearly there. So, what? It's like, how could that be? Yeah, very interesting. I've gotten so used to seeing Xie Lian with the makeup on and the hair up that when we see them in the flashback and the bandages and everything, I'm like, it doesn't look right. I just want Xie Lian to be in makeup and this red dress the entire series. But I love the little detail of smelling. Like, he covers his nose as soon as he enters because he smells the dead, rotting smell, the stench of the corpses. And this whole first person point of view camera work, it almost makes me a little nauseous. I'm like, oh, you don't have to do that. I don't think Modazushi did that much at all, which is interesting. But something's going on because we've established that the gods in this world get their power. They get their power from people's like worshiping them and leaving offerings. Well, if you want to stamp out somebody's power, I guess the way to do that would be to get rid of the temples, right? So if there weren't any temples for people to go to and pray to them and do offerings or worship them, then they're not going to get any power. So is somebody trying to prevent Ming Guang from getting any power? So they're getting rid of the temples? This Hall of the Brides is super creepy. This whole episode has like a creepy vibe to it. It's just very eerie, right? Very eerie. And like, so he counts 17 of them. Okay. And all the missing brides are here. No, thank you. And I'm glad it's dark enough that we don't see all of them. Ugh. And then we have the creepy children singing. Nah, not having it. But yeah, that begs to differ. The new bride on the red sedan chair never smile. Like, yeah, if it was a bridegroom, why would he not want you to smile and be full of tears if he's trying to steal you away? But if it's a bride and she's jealous, then yeah, she wouldn't want you to be happy. Interesting. And Xie Lian's all by himself, just being like, I gotta solve this case myself. And then there's this weird fog that shows up, and Xie Lian tries to fight it, and it escapes. And then he runs into, of course, the group of the villagers led by, is it Pingyo? Pingyo? I think Pingyo was his name. He looks like Connie from Attack on Titan, Pingyo. That he's got the village mob with him. But yeah, something's amok. Something is amiss under the surface. You can already tell there's some stuff going on underneath the surface that's interesting. And then, of course, they assume he's a woman at first. They really play up this cross-dressing joke, right? They really make it a joke that he's cross-dressing. I don't see anything wrong with it. I'm like, he looks rather nice in makeup and a dress, but they play it up so hard in this episode. And I almost feel a little uncomfortable playing it up. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. They're like, where's the bride? And so I like that Xie Lian is a cinnamon roll, but when he gets serious and wants information, he's like, okay, speak. And okay, I love that Feng, I love Nan Feng. His like trademark thing is to hit something against the side with like his gloved hand. I love that. We have Feng and Yao. Nice. It's great. They don't really mention the wolves, but they just talk about how everything's eerie. And the bandaged boys who they chased after, they thought he was the bridegroom. But I'm like, it's clearly a bandaged kid. Why would you think he's the bridegroom? It's weird. And so they go through this scenario where they think the bridegroom might have possessed somebody. And so they have Feng look through everybody to double check. But then they establish that the bridegroom is a wrath. There's a wrath and then there's devastation. Devastation is the highest of the ghosts. And so they say he's a wrath, and wraths can transform. So that would make sense if the man in red smirking was a wrath because he transformed into all the butterflies. But they think, then we find out something else about the man with the smirking and the red robes. Old Feng and Yao, they're not too pleased to hear about all this. Interesting. So we go back and we see the Zhao girl, Zhao Ying, and she's trying to protect the boy with the bandages. And she gets into a scuffle. We have the cross-dressing joke. We go through that. And I like that he tries to get Feng and Yao to back him up. He's like, isn't it fine, guys? And they're like, But then this guy that stuck through the back, like, he was suspicious too. So I guess he wasn't the bridegroom either, because we know now the bridegroom was a bride. But it was just very suspicious that he lured them all there. Like, maybe he was possessed by the bride. Interesting. And so, yeah, they all decide. I'm like, it's really creepy. Okay, they establish one thing here before we get back into the temple. Feng is going to go attack them, and Xie Lian says, calm down. If you attack mortals, you'll be in trouble with the heavenly officials. So you can't, so the gods aren't allowed to attack mortals. Good to know. Good to know. And it seems like maybe Xie Lian would know that from experience. Who knows? Okay, so yeah, they go back in the temple. It's really creepy, this whole part where they're talking about selling the brides, that they're like, they're going to take the brides with them and sell them. That's creepy, like selling corpses, like for, I'm assuming, numbers of black market reasons. But it's really sad when they're like, oh, leave the old ones. Their families are already dead. I'm like, I was like, man, just MXTX, not just beating around the punch. And Xie Lian's like, just get out of here. This temple's permeated with toxic gases from as soon as he said toxic gases from the corpses, I was thinking of like the corpse poison from Modazushi. I'm like, okay, we're getting that too. And yeah, the girl's like, get out. But they don't care. Their families will pay for them. And he says, don't take it off. The veils block off the death chi and yang chi. So, okay, the veils were blocking them from hurting them. He's like, don't take them off. Ugh. But once they took the veils off, it let the corpses come back to life. Because what was on the ground when they came back were the veils. That's what the squares of fabric were on the ground. Ugh. Yeah, it's very creepy, this entire episode. And they wiped the stuff on them. Ugh. It's just, yeah, this series is a little bit more sinister and eerie already than the first part of Modazushi. Curious. And then he like throws Ying to the ground, and he's about to slap her again or kick her, and that's when Xie Lian like rescues her. He's like, no. I like that Xie Lian like is protecting her, like bound to protect her. And then some like rock or something hits him, but it came through the window, and it was the boy. It was the boy through the rock. Okay, that's what it is. The boy with the bandages through the rock. So sometimes when we've seen this first person perspective, it's been the boy with the bandages. Okay, that makes more sense now. Gotcha. And they come back out of the forest. They run into the forest chase after the boy, and there's blood everywhere. But Xie Lian's like, it's not their blood. And I love when he throws the torch, and we see the corpses. They're hanging in the trees. Oh. Bizarre. So, romantic first date. You go with Mr. Smirk into the creepy forest where there's corpses hanging out. He protects you with an umbrella. So the green ghost. And I like they just bring up the green ghost. Like Feng and Yao bring up the green ghost, and Xie Lian's like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about? It says a ghost whose cultivation level is near the devastation rank. So a really powerful ghost. Okay. He loves hanging corpses upside down in the woods. After the attack of the base slaves, we parted ways. Okay, so we have one note here. Base slaves are basically like fierce ghosts. Because we established that the fierce ghosts are the weaker ones. So base slaves, I'm assuming, are like the fierce ghosts, like the weakest of the ghosts. Interesting. And so they're like, Your Highness should have passed. So they know he's a prince too. Should have passed up here on the way up. They're like, did you notice anything unusual? And Xie Lian's like, well, I noticed a lot of unusual things. And that's when he tells them about seeing the smirking man. And they're like, what is it? What'd you do? He's like, I met somebody. And they're like, what? So he, and had the red string. He's like, how do I describe this tall, dark, handsome man? You're saying that the perilous magical formation was crushed just by a stamp of his foot. Could he be the green ghost that's near a devastation rank you're talking about? No, like he might be. Does he have any distinctive features? Silver butterflies. And I like that Feng is like, like, what kind of silver butterflies? He's like, silver and translucent. That doesn't look like living creatures. And they're both like, and they both are like, let's leave. I'm like, wait, what? So apparently our smirking man is somebody really powerful, that they're like, nope, we don't need to be here. Like, Yao pieces out instantly. Yao's like, let's go. He's like, we've got to go. He's like, the ghost bridegroom is just a wrath. Even the green ghost is just near devastation. Do you know who the master of the silver butterflies is? Oh, so is he like the king of ghosts? Is he? Is he like the king of ghosts? So we said there's a heavenly emperor who is like the emperor, the leader of the bureaucracy of the gods in the heaven realm. And we said there's a ghostly realm. Is the guy in red the king of ghosts? Maybe. But if he was the bandaged kid, how does that work? And he's like, I don't know. And I like that Xie Lian is like us. He's like, I don't know. Please, tell me. Tell us, the audience. Give us your exposition, Yao. Tell us your exposition, please. And he's like, I don't have time to explain. No, we have all the time in the world. Let's go. But he says, the situation is beyond you. We need to report this to the heaven realm. So they need to, like, this guy is top notch, right? Xie Lian, you just went on a date with the CEO of the ghost realm and you didn't even know it. He's like, he didn't seem to have any ill will. And second, if he's as intimidating as you said, then I shouldn't just leave others behind. I'll stay here with Feng. You should head back and get help. So, yeah, I love that instantly Xie Lian is sticking up for him. He's like, well, he didn't hurt me at all. When I attacked him, he ran away. So if he's as bad as you say he is, why did he let me go? And if he's as bad as you say he is, then somebody should stay behind here in case if he shows up again. Plus, he's like, I want to find out who he is. Oh, this is so fascinating. And Yao's like, don't have to tell me twice. He just leaves. He doesn't even argue. He just leaves. It's great. I love that. Yao's kind of a coward, but it's fun. I'm like, interesting. And then there's, okay, so I've just realized that the guy that is Pingyo doesn't exactly look like Connie from Attack on Titan, but he reminds me of a character from Avatar, The Last Airbender. The way he's animated, not Yang, though. So not Yang. But he looks like a character that would be on Avatar, The Last Airbender. That's what's throwing me off about him. It's just his design. But yeah, this poor kid with the bandages and Xie Lian. I feel like Xie Lian sticks up. Xie Lian so far has been like a deity that represents like saving the underdogs or saving the ones in need, like people who are in need, like helping them, because he helped the little boy with the bandages that fell from the building. He helps the bandaged boy here. He helps Ying. Like if there's someone that's underprivileged or oppressed, he's there to help them. Like I feel like that's what Xie Lian represents. Like that's the type of deity that he is. Interesting. It's almost like he looks at the bandaged boy being like, you seem familiar. But yeah, trying to, the blood, like the corpse and everything. He's like, it's not safe. Let's go. And so they decide to go back to the temple. And the girl explains that the boy was from the mountains and she was just helping him and the people ran him off. And that's why she ended up just bringing him food instead. Okay. And so him and Feng decide to go back into the temple, saying that the bridegroom is in the temple and it's actually a bride that's among the others. And these guys tried to carry the brides off, but then they get attacked. What'd you think was going to happen? And so the bride attacks just as Pingyo is going to attack Ying and the bandaged boy. And then our episode ends with just a thing with the bride, and that's it. Ah, how? Why? Okay. So I like that we have in the ED this like shrine that's been made. We have all the bandages. We have the hat with the net. We have the silver butterflies and the umbrella with the blood dripping down from it. And we see the two of them walking side by side, basically getting married. The most unbeknownst marriage ever. So we see somebody like with cleaning supplies. Okay. It looks like somebody hanging from a pole, maybe. And then all these women that are outside the temple. So something is up. Okay, I want to go back to that one scene there where they ask the people about... Yeah, to ask the people about it. So there used to be quite a few of the Mingguang temples. There used to be quite a few of them, but somehow all of them caught fire. All of them caught on fire. People said General Mingguang wasn't powerful enough to guard the place. Okay. So he was a deity. And they said he wasn't powerful enough to guard it, so it all caught fire. So they replaced him with General Nanyang. So Nanyang, they replaced him. Okay. Interesting. I'm trying to think what I've got for my... Feng. No, that's him. Trying to think here. Is Nanyang. Okay, Nanyang is Feng. Okay. All right. Interesting. I've like got my character sheet going here. I'm like trying to write down all their names. Okay. So Guangyang or Mingguang, these names. Mingguang, his temples were everywhere, but they mysteriously caught fire and were replaced with the temples of Nanyang or Feng. Okay. So my theory would be that that the young guy is trying to get more worshippers, so he just shoved the Mingguang guy out and wrecked his temples so that he could get more power by being worshipped by the people there and not him. Okay. But that's funny because Feng, Feng, the guy that's with Xie Lian right now, is the deputy of Feng. So it's his deputy. So Xie Lian can't exactly like oust him and say, oh, I suspect that this god like wrecked the temples of another god to steal his worshippers. He can't come out and say that because Feng is working for him and is watching over Xie Lian. So that's interesting. They can't just come out and say his theories. That's the thing that's interesting about this so far, is that Xie Lian is piecing things together on his own and has to do his own detective work, but he can't exactly tell what he finds out in its entirety to Feng or Yao, because they work for deities that don't like Xie Lian. So if he tells them and they take that back to HQ and tell the people in the heavenly realm, then Xie Lian may get demoted again. So, that's fascinating. So he's got to keep this all to himself and just abbreviate the details and tell them just like, here's the abbreviated version. Oh, that's so fascinating. Okay. So we're setting up lots of things. Not only this whole thing with the bride is just like the veneer, the gloss over something else is happening underfoot. There's something going on with this red guy with the jingly boots. There's something going on with these temples, some getting burned down or replaced with others. There's something going on with everybody being quiet about it. There's something going on with this bride, but she's like the red herring, like just throw everybody off. Ah, interesting. And Xie Lian trying to figure it all out on his own. Oh my gosh. This is great. I love it. So yeah, lots of questions. I'm assuming maybe hopefully we'll get answers this season since Yao has teased us with answers. Hopefully we'll get them. But I'm so curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers. Please no plot-related spoilers. World building, thoughts about the episode with the characters so far, like thematic things. But just please no spoilers, because I know it's all going to come out in the wash, and I'm excited to be surprised. I was surprised about the butterfly thing. That was great. I was like, whoa. So we shall see, right? But in any case, this episode is great. I can't believe we're a fourth of the way through already. Oh, God. But I did watch 2 episodes together, so that's probably why. But in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to wait a week before watching episode 4, but I'll at least wait until after the first episode's out on YouTube and get some more comments, and we'll talk about them next week with episode 4 of Heaven Official's Blessing. Bye.